I used to be quite into sports anime. There is a certain charm to watching young, naive teens give their bodies and souls to the most important thing in the entire world, throwing a ball over a net. But really, it's just a whole lot of wholesome fun. You know, taking this thing that the majority of us straight up avoided during our school years, to smoke pot behind the parking lot, and instead making it a center of the whole freaking world. The world of sports anime is one where your local sports team is more important than your entire blood-related family, everything outside the gymnasium does not matter or even exist, and where the most important thing in the entire universe is to play in the national Japanese ping pong competition. And speaking of ping pong, let me just rib out about this very interesting looking show for 10 whole minutes, by the end of which I will hopefully convince you that it's the best and the only sports anime you'd ever need in your life. So without further ado, here we go. Ping Pong the animation follows a story of several characters who have nothing in common except one thing, and that thing is in a very title. We have Smile, a seemingly uninspired player who has no passion or desire to be actually good at ping pong, Peko, a loudmouth who boasts about being a god of table tennis to every and anyone, King, a Chinese protege who has fallen from grace and got stuck in the middle of nowhere, Dragon, a national treasure of a player that dominates the world of ping pong, and also a dozen other characters who are in some way or form connected to the surprisingly convoluted process of hitting plastic balls to the other side of the table. At the very start of the show, we establish initial power levels, our main heroes, the main antagonists, smaller rivalries, intricate ball hitting techniques, and all sorts of stuff like that. Just the most ordinary sports anime shenanigans. Some heroes discover their hidden and very cool ping pong potential, some get stomped in the very first episode of the show, and the Nationals hover over everyone like a golden ticket, which could end every single life problem in an instant. The beginning of the show is exactly what you come to expect from animes about teens screaming loudly while hitting balls. And then it gets hella depressive. The first half of Ping Pong has a very straightforward and heartbreaking in its simplicity point. You may try your very best, give it all you have, live, breathe and shit with ping pong. But in the end of the day, you can't do jack shit if you are not talented enough. The power of friendship, working really hard, and any other stuff sports anime try to convince you of, is just a bunch of infantile child nonsense. A shocker, I know, and here I thought that my favorite Chinese cartoons are the most reliable source of real-life knowledge. But the way how Ping Pong presents this cold, harsh truth is quite remarkable. It doesn't try to sugarcoat it with some crying sentimental speeches or hide it behind some gibberish anime nonsense. It just says to your very face that, yeah, you ain't got shit, brother, just give up, lol. And that's kinda rough, but at the same time it's just how sports operate. Every field of every sport is dominated by the monsters, who can do what no other human being is physically capable of. They worked insanely hard for what they have, yes, but no matter how hard you will try, you won't get to that same level as them. They're just built differently. Not like in the meme, figurative way, their bodies are literally better than yours, and you can't change that. At least not without Cyberpunk being real, and I would prefer if it would not. And whether you like it or not, it's not like that only in sport. Every field that you try will have people that are just better than you would ever be. It's sad, unfair and just sucks, but that is the world that we live in, and in this silly anime about table tennis out of all things, we are faced head-on with this natural discrimination that all of us are subjects to. I would never be able to become Michael Jordan, and this random nameless hippie-looking dude will never be able to beat Smile. and that's because he's normal and Smile is a freaking genius. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I think I've seen this one in some motivational video about getting up at 4 AM and eating raw meat, but it's kinda true. It's a gross oversimplification of course, but it gets the point across. However, characters like Smile or Dragon do put in the hard work. They work inhumanely hard, and that's why every single character can only watch how their dreams for the future crumble in front of them in the trash fire of cruel reality. But the interesting thing about Dragon and Smile is that despite having this incredible gift for ball hitting, they absolutely fucking hate it. Yeah, the second half of Ping Pong is just as depressive as the first one. Even if you're an absolute giga unit of table tennis like Dragon, that doesn't mean you can escape the existential dread and total misery. If normal peasants like us are forced to give up our hopes and actually find a real job, then for those few who can make it, the fate might prepare a future that is just as ruthless. You see, for Dragon, there is no joy in table tennis. It's a responsibility, a constant burden of expectation that he must carry with him 24/7. His team, school, the sports equipment company his uncle owns, everyone expects him to be the best of the best. He's a symbol to them, and thus he can't really do what he himself wants. He just performs his role, does what is expected of him. More than that, there is a constant fear of not living up to the impossibly high set of expectations that were put on his shoulders. Dragon is alone, impossibly fatigued and absolutely fucking miserable. Every time he takes the ping pong paddle, he tortures himself for the sake of others who see that infinite potential inside of him. And Smile is just like that as well. At least he can become just like that. You see, for the entirety of the show, all that he hears is how talented he is, and how much can he achieve. It's like the invisible hand of destiny directs him into the golden halls of ping pong mastery. But all that he gets from it is loneliness, the necessity to always perform well, and people calling him a weirdo. So basically everything that he tried to escape from with the help of ping pong. The thing that once was a blessing has turned into the worst of curses. What these two have in common is talent, yes, but also that neither of them ever wanted to devote their entire life to hitting plastic balls over the comically small nets. And that is the message of ping pong. You either never be good enough and all your dreams will burn, or you will be eaten alive by the nightmares that your dreams will turn into. There is no escape, and you are doomed and utterly fucked no matter what. Except that's not the message at all. Let's rewind and go back to these two guys. The always talking, self-proclaimed god of ping pong, Paco, and the self-centered Chinese exile, King. Early in the show, they both get completely destroyed and forced into the background of the grand story of Smile and his rise to glory. But it doesn't mean that they stop being relevant to the plot, because both of them play immensely important roles. The first one, Paco, quits ping pong like every single episode. Majority of his screen time is him either complaining about stuff or wandering mindlessly doing anything except actually playing. Despite being a promising player in the past, no one really believes in him anymore. People don't pray to him like he is a Jesus of table tennis or fear him like he is the last boss of ping pong. He can quit anytime and no one would bat an eye. And he does exactly that. He quits. He goes and does whatever Japanese teens do with their normal lives. But for some reason, no matter how hard he tries, he can't completely cut his ties to the world of table tennis. And that reason is that he really, really loves ping pong. Every single scene of him not being at that table just feels like him being out of his element. He wanders aimlessly, can't find any joy in anything, and just feels like a ghost who has lost the most important part of him. Because to Paco, ping pong is not just a game or a responsibility or a set of impossible expectations. It's a part of him. Dragon and Smile show how essential the innate talents may be, but Peko shows that all that talent will bring you nowhere if you simply don't enjoy what you do. No matter who you are and where you come from, you must get kicks from what you do, or what is the point otherwise? It's no wonder then that the story ends with both of our ping-pong demigods being absolutely demolished by Peko. All of those three are undoubtedly very talented, but only one of them feels like he's flying at that table and not constantly burdened down by the weight of responsibility or expectations. No matter what happens, Peko will continue playing, not only because he is gifted enough, but also because he can't live without table tennis. While at the same time, Smile and Dragon just wanted to be defeated by someone who can free them from the shackles of being the best. But does life outside the ping pong even exist? Aren't sports anime are supposed to be all about being hyper-focused on winning and going to those sweet nationals? Well, let's talk about King. King makes his journey all the way from Beijing not to teach us some secret Chinese ball hitting techniques, but just to remind us that, hey, maybe there is like stuff in life that's more important than ping pong, I guess? The whole arc of King is about starting as this pretentious asshole who is convinced that he is the shit. Well, that sounds familiar. And then learning the lesson of humility. And that maybe, even if you have very cool glasses, it doesn't mean that you are above all of the simple joys and simple struggles that we normal non-ping pong gods go through every single day. I like King. I like every single character in this show, but King's story is basically about growing up and learning to enjoy these small, tiny moments that mean so little, but so much at the same time. To find a life that is not just ping pong is basically the final boss for every single character in this anime. Except Peko, of course, because Peko is a goddamn monster, and he is perfectly comfortable with being just that. But for others who may not be gifted enough or just don't care about pings and pongs, there is a whole other world to explore. Just because you are good at something doesn't mean it's the only path for you to choose. Just as being not good enough doesn't mean the end of the world. We are free to choose, free to explore, and free to create the most fulfilling and fun life, no matter what deck of cards we were given. And as a human being who has been through heartbreaks of not being good enough and the burdens of being surprisingly good but in all of the wrong places, I find this final message of ping pong to be comforting. Life is unfair and even cruel, but maybe beyond all of the bullshit, we all can find a place where just being ourselves is enough. And it's such a weird and hopeful message that I got from the Ugly as Hell cartoon about one of the most boring sports that has ever existed. What an absolute masterpiece.